everybody. Welcome into Tom Curran's Patriots Talk podcast. We got Phil Perry. We have Devin McCourty. He's a head coach of a kickball team. He's a volunteer coach for a t-ball team. Phil has been coaching baseball for years. I must have 500 games under my belt. Dev, what kind of a sideline tenor do you bring to these clubs?
Well, kickball to me is going to be exciting. Baseball is one of the most boring sports in the world. I don't watch any baseball. I refuse to coach, but I told them I will help out. I really want to be a dugout coach. I want to keep the kids in order in the dugout. I'm all about discipline. But I'm not looking forward to this, but I've heard from every parent, my kids are first and second grade, that it's going to be a rough watch. I've heard, I'm ready for it. And I am looking forward to it. They're into it, so it should be fun.
I got the perfect job for you, Devin. I got the perfect job because first and second grade, that's oftentimes coach pitch. So I need you down on a knee about 10 feet away from these kids, throwing darts and just getting peppered. By the end of the season, they'll actually be able to hit pretty well, and you're going to have to work on your reaction time to make sure you don't screw up that moneymaker now that you're the big TV star.
I can't throw. 3 shoulder surgeries. There's no throwing out of this arm.
It's just this. It's a flick of the wrist. You're fine.
I don't throw. Nope.
It's like darts.
If I throw,
it's like darts.
If I throw for an inning, my shoulder will be on fire. Not doing it.
Do you have the designated area where kids are able to swing their bats? Because every kid has to come up with his own bat. So you have 20 aluminum weapons. And then they're all swinging them around. You got to be in the cage over there, one guy at a time. Trevor, in there now. Is that what's going on?
We were in the backyard practicing, and my daughter hit me in the shin with the bat. And I was pissed because I was standing right next to her, showing her something, and she swings the bat. Like, as I'm standing right next to her, it ended the whole session. I said, everybody inside, this is over with. Get inside. She hit me on purpose. There's no doubt in my mind.
No doubt. Well, she was all set too, clearly. And baseball might not be their first sport. I used to say to my kids when they would throw it poorly or make a lackadaisical effort to catch the ball because we had a wide open backyard, the ball would roll forever. And I would say, you know what? How many other wide open development? How many dads do you see out here playing with their kids at 3:40 in the afternoon? Nobody. The ball. Which we still joke about to this day. How many kids do you see? How many other dads do you see?
I can imagine you are a maniac. Phil is probably calm, like he's the intellectual coach, getting them ready, barely shows emotion, only when necessary.
That's right.
But you were probably like old school maniac coach all the time. Actually, I know it's true because I've been to a bar and I've had people come up to me and tell me how they used to see you coach and how you were a maniac. So everybody in town know who you were.
I was unbelievably enthusiastic, and what I would often do was err on the side, and my kids are still pissed about it to this day. I would err on the side of trying to be noble. Blue, that was actually foul. That was foul. I'm down there, third base coach. It was foul. Okay, kids, there's a lesson there. There's a lesson. And my kids would be like, "What are you doing? We want to win with 3 and 15 here." Anyway. Let's get down to it.
Character developer.
A lot of culture setting.
Yeah, he's a culture guy.
A lot of culture setting.
He's a Dan Campbell of T-ball at Lakeville, Mass.
I like that.
Unbelievably enthusiastic.
He can't decide whether he wants to keep these glasses on or off. I don't know what he's doing over there.
Every time I go to look at the questions, I need them on. But then I think I want to try and look like I'm under 55.
This is how old he is, Devin.
He could just keep them on, though. He doesn't need to take them off.
All right, fine. I look like Mike Tirico. Not exactly.
Exactly like him.
Speaking of the culture that I tried to instill in my teams, Dev, it's very clear that the Patriots in their free agent forays prioritize culture and familiarities with the guys they want. And that meant that they sometimes were excluding guys that they weren't sure would be, for lack of a better word, run through a wall types. Do you think that was the right approach for Mike Vrabel to employ right now with this team?
So I'm not as on top of it. Who who do we say are the people who don't fit? Like, what are rumors saying of like a guy or two that doesn't fit?
Phil.
So they did not make a trade offer on DK Metcalf, Devin, I think, because they didn't love the fit. They weren't in love with the fit with DK Metcalf. They didn't love the fit with Laramie Tunsil. They considered Laramie Tunsil, but Laramie Tunsil has a reputation as maybe just not being the kind of professional they're looking for in terms of practice habits and work ethic and things of that nature. They know those guys would make them better, but they said, they're just maybe not our guys, at least right now, where they want to be focused on this kind of thing, because they know they're not a player or two away from a Super Bowl. If that was the case, then you'd be willing to, swallow hard and say, hey, we're already set up in terms of the culture. We'll take that guy. Let's go win a championship. Now they're prioritizing other things is what it feels like right now.
Yeah, and I think, like, you look at both those guys, I think DK Metcalf going to Pittsburgh, I think the belief in Pittsburgh is you have this strong culture with the head coach, but also with the locker room. When you look at Cam Hayward and Minka Fitzpatrick and different people like that. So I think, like, when I was in New England, there was this feeling of we can implement and we can input anybody into this locker room because of the guys around them. So I look at the wide receiver room, and you guys know the talk of this past season was there's too much talk, not enough production. And to me, that room has, since Julian Edelman retired, they need a guy that the rest of the room can say, hey, we got to be like that guy. Like, we have to do what he does in order to just be close to being good enough to being out there. And I think that's hurt them. And it's not to say they don't have good players here and there in there, but like, guys need direction. Guys need to learn how to be pros. You need to learn how to do that day in and day out. It's easy, I would say, in our league to kind of be inconsistent, to splash, to have a strong training camp. Like, that stuff is easy because everybody's talented. The hard thing is day after day, week after week, showing up, and then there's a standard of, hey, I'm always going to play at this level. Every once in a while, maybe I'll dip low when it's just a bad game. And then because I'm going to be consistent, there's going to be other games where I have these amazing games, but you always know what you're going to get out of me. And I would say across the board, is there a position group for the Patriots right now where you say, I feel good about that group saying, hey, there's a standard and they're always going to be there? And I think it would be hard. And I think because of that, you do have to make the right decisions. Hey, this group has a close connection with Nick Cassera. I'm sure they called Houston and said, hey, Laramie Tunsil is one of the best left tackles in the NFL. Why are you even thinking about trading him? And like that, to me, that was one of my head scratchers from this offseason of, is there something we don't know? Houston's been amazing when you look at what Caserio's done from a general manager standpoint of Stroud, Will Anderson Jr., Stingley, Lassiter last year. Some of these moves they made, I know Diggs got hurt, but even acquiring Diggs, going to get Joe Mixon, like, they've been spot on. So when I saw Laramie Tunsil get traded, I'm like, wait, what? Why would you do that? You struggled on the offensive line. Like, why would you get rid of a guy who's a good player? So there's some question marks there. So I'm not mad at the Patriots for saying, hey, let's focus on getting guys in here and not think, let's just go get the guys that's going to help us win in 2025, because ultimately, like, they're not going to be in the Super Bowl next year. Let's build this thing so in the next 2 to 3 to 4 years, we're exactly where we want to be.
The ironic thing is that when you think of the Patriots leadership contingent, it would have comprised John Jones, Deatrich Wise, and David Andrews. And all three of them in the last week have either signed with other teams or been moved on from the team. I know you had an immediate reaction on social media to David. What are your feelings on the three different guys, and what do they lose with David?
Yeah, I think the first two guys, I think John and Deatrich, I think is a good split for both parties. I think both those guys are veteran players that can contribute to a good football team that is trying to learn how to have a championship pedigree, how to perform consistently, how to go win big games. Like, this team just played in an NFC championship with Dan Quinn in his first year, who's building that culture. And I think he probably did enough background check and everything to know these two guys that I'm about to bring in the locker room are going to further the culture I'm trying to build. They're going to help do that. And I think as you get older in this league, there's more value that you have and that you bring going to do that. And I think for the Patriots, and I would say both those guys, John and Deatrich, are more kind of lead by example guys. And I think the Patriots, they need more probably guys that are going to be more vocal and do different things. And I think they want more guys that are going to fit what they're trying to do. And, I think what John and Deatrich have done is a testament to the Patriots organization, to the Mr. Kraft and the Kraft family. But now when you look at it, and, obviously Josh is mixed in there a little bit, but both those guys are on defense. That's gone. This is Vrabel. This is Williams on defense as a defensive coordinator. The standard and the leadership they bring might not necessarily be what they are looking for, what they're doing. They went and got guys that showcase exactly what they want to see on that side of the ball. I just think Dave, on the other hand, is going to be a guy that I'm not saying he should be on the 2025 Patriots roster in September. It just seemed like to me as a no-brainer to say, hey, this guy's coming off a shoulder injury. He's rehabbing. He's getting ready to play this season. Let's let him come into training camp. Let's have a conversation with him. Let's say, hey, we're willing to give you a shot in training camp. We want to see what you can do, and we can't guarantee. And if it comes to the end of training camp and you got to have that tough conversation, as older players, it's coming. But think about what Drake May could have gotten. Is there somebody that knows Josh McDaniels' offense that's still playing football better than David Andrews? I would say no. Like the protections, all these different things, just from April until the end of August, if they had David Andrews, he would have been a coach on the field. He could have simplified some of the verbiage, and then they could have broke off as an offensive line. He could be like, hey, fellas, I know that sounds like a lot, but think of it this way. Think of this way. Put this in this bucket. That's what players need, and a lot of times players have to get that from other players. So I think with Dave Walker, it just puts more pressure on Cole Strange, Michael Owenu to step up and fill that role because they've been a part of it. And they're going to have to try to do that and help facilitate some of the Josh McDaniels ways and what he's doing. I just thought Dave would have been an unbelievable resource to kind of get that thing kickstarted.
So my contention was this. If you've decided that you're going to go with Ben Brown and try and bring in another veteran, and you've kind of mentally moved on from David, it would be a bait and switch and leading him on if you asked him to keep rehabbing, keep coming in, try and compete, and all of a sudden he finds he's running second or third or not at all. And it would probably or could potentially lead to more agitation. So that was my thought. If you've moved on, move on. Yes, no?
So
I mean, you make a very good case.
For David, I agree with you 100%. Lee, to me, as a team standpoint, if you're going to make a decision what's best for the team, I think you're very transparent and you bring the guy in and you say, hey, this is what we're thinking as we're trying to build this team. This is what we want to do. We don't want to be disrespectful to you. We can let you go now and give you a chance to jump into free agency before free agency starts and find a new team. But to me, there might have been a thought like Dave. We haven't heard anything from Dave of like trying to play somewhere else, and maybe he will. I had conversations with him, and I think he's still up in the air. But I think they could have a conversation. Like maybe he says to them, if it's not here, then it's nowhere. Like whatever the shot is that you're willing to give me, I'm willing to take it. Let's go. Bring in a guy. Don't bring in a guy. Like I don't care. I just want an opportunity. And he might have said, if I outplayed a person, just give me the shot. If it's not looking the way you want, I understand. You're going to move on. I'll be fine. But I just thought from a team standpoint, taking out, getting him angry, it just seems like it would have benefited your young quarterback so much because now he's going to have 2 offensive coordinators in 2 years. And we've seen the impact of that sometimes on these young players.
So you lose a leader, you lose a resource there from a scheme standpoint in David Andrews. But how much better do you think they've gotten, Devin, just with the signings that they've made? They still have some clear holes on the offensive side, center now included, along with left tackle and receiver. Those were the glaring ones going into free agency. But they made a bunch of additions. So is this a team that, we should be looking at and saying, hey, by the end of next year, I'm not saying they're going to be on Football Night in America and Devin McCourty's going to be breaking them down late on a Sunday night, but he's going to be, when they flash that screen of teams that are in the hunt in December, like the Patriots should be in the hunt. Is that what we should be talking about when it comes to this 2025 Patriots team?
I think there's a chance. I think what you started with, the holes are still the holes. We have to fill it in a little bit. Like they can't just, I don't think you can go into the season again. You went into the season the last 2 years not fully knowing what you want to do at left tackle. Now, if they come in and they say, hey, there's a guy in the locker room that we think once we get our hands on him, he can solidify that spot, then, hey, we'll wait and see. But did they get better overall as a team? No doubt about it. I think, especially if you get Christian Barmore healthy, I think with Milton Williams and having those two guys in the middle with Landry and Keon White, I think you now have a chance to play a defense. And, I was talking to Karen Gregan the other day I think this defense will be more along the lines of our 2018 defense when you talk about aggressive, downhill, forcing teams to make mistakes, not really waiting or, I think it'll just be a different mentality. I think they have what it takes to do that. When you look at Carlton Davis and Gonzo outside, and then if Marcus Jones stays healthy, I think he's a true slot corner. And then I think with Splain and Bentley, you're going to have two guys that are going to know how to run a defense. They're going to be versatile. Splain's a guy who can run, not the ideal kind of big linebacker thumper. So I think when you throw in Tavai, Bentley, and Splain, like you'll be able to be a little bit more versatile and you could do different packages and things like that. And I'm sure they're going to keep, moving guys around and finding some other guys that we're not even talking about to fill roles. But I think that defense will be able to be aggressive. I think it'll be different than what we've seen. I'm interested to see what coverages and stuff they focus in on. You look at what Detroit did last year. It was a lot of man-to-man defense. I don't know if that was more Aaron Glenn. I don't know if Williams believes in that. Like those are the things you got to figure out. But they have the corners to do that. And I think obviously with Pep and Doug, they're downhill guys. Maybe Jalen Hawkins and Epps will play more of the deep safety role. But Detroit has used a lot of three safeties. Ife Melifonwu was out a good amount last year, but as soon as he was healthy, he was out there playing. And then you think about the year before, Branch played a lot in the slot with Gardner Johnson and Kirby Joseph playing. So obviously, I still love paying attention to safety. So I think they can do a lot of different things with that secondary they have back there too.
You know what? You also kind of left off Mapu, not because of any dislike for Marty, but when you look at the group, there's so much more stuff they can do. And they finally have like a legitimate free safety. They kind of haven't replaced that since as Felger likes to say, just put Devin on the lighthouse and let him watch everything going on in front of him and help out where he needs to. They haven't done that. They've had a bunch of box safeties. So it is interesting. I don't want to belabor the point there because I want to get to offense. And that is at number 4, I don't care if it's Will Campbell. I don't care if it's Armand Membu. I don't care who it is. I don't think you can cross your fingers and hope at left tackle anymore. I say get the guy and fix it, Devin. Don't worry about wide receiver. Even if it's Travis Hunter sitting there.
Take a tackle no matter what at 4.
A tackle, period. Stop the messing around. It's holding you hostage.
Put him in his place, Devin. Don't go easy on him. Put him in his place.
I just think if you really feel like you have to take a left tackle, then you can't take a tackle at 4 when you don't have to take the tackle at 4.
Okay, trade down.
If you feel like we're going to take a tackle, trade back. Do what you need to do. The Hunter thing is interesting to me now because they paid Carlton Davis. So you have to, if you take Hunter, you have to really think he's going to be one of the top receivers in the NFL by taking him because the number 4 pick, a $20 million corner, and then soon to be $30 million corner if I'm Christian Gonzalez, 35. Yep. I think after this year, I think his name gets mentioned 1 or 2 when you talk about top corners in the league. I think they don't play on any primetime games. They don't really have big games. So people didn't really get to watch what he did, obviously as a rookie, but especially last year. So that to me is a lot of investment in one group. So, but if like Abdul Carter's there at 4, to me, it sounds like, again, I'm not big on like how to scout these guys, and especially not offensive tackles. I'm not going to pretend to know. But if Will Campbell's not a consensus starting left tackle in this league, I don't think you can afford to take him just to fill a need, because that need is still going to be a need in 3 years if he's not the left tackle that you think that you need. So to me, I agree with you. We can't just hope for a left tackle, but there has to be a better plan to survive with a left tackle that can play left tackle and not get a guy who's really a guard and play him at left tackle and hope that next year we figure out something different. Like, find a guy that can play left tackle. If you like Will Campbell, then bring him in and let him play whatever position you think he's best at, and then go from there. Because getting a guy like Jason Garrett, we talk about it all the time when we do podcasts together. Like, you got to not just look at the guy in the draft this year. You have to think about, where does this guy fit in the draft last year, the year before? Like, if we think this guy would have been a 4th-round pick last year, but now he's the best available, so we're going to take him at 4, and we're not really sure if he's going to hold up, then it doesn't really help us, because we're going to be right back in this same position in 2, 3, maybe 4 years. So, again, if you like the kid and you just don't like him at 4, then to me, trade back. Somebody else might need someone there, and then still try to get your guy. I think that's what you really want to do, especially because they have a lot of needs. It'll help them.
All right, so Devin, we'll take your. Sorry, go ahead, Tom.
Before you annihilate me, Phil, I got to say this. I guess what I'm saying is, conceptually, that position can hold you hostage. Now, the flip side of that is, the best play made an entire game by a left tackle is just preventing something shitty from happening. The best play made by a wide receiver, and he can have one catch, it can be a 63-yard touchdown that puts points on the board. So I do get the difference. It's just, to me, I can't watch it anymore. Fix it.
Unfortunately for you and for the Patriots, Tom, the fix might not be there at 4. Like, you can't force it in the draft and say, well, we're going to take the best offensive lineman because the best offensive lineman is usually a really good player. This year, there are just more questions associated with that. And it sounds like, according to, front office people, scouts that you talk to, there are really 2 blue chip players in the draft. So everybody's going to be sitting there in the draft room looking at the cards on the board, and Travis Hunter's going to have a grade that's going to look a certain way, and Will Campbell's going to have a grade that looks a certain way, and I think the argument's going to be made for them. I don't think they're going to even have the discussion.
Travis Hunter sucks as a wide receiver in the NFL?
Anything could happen. And Devin, you said you're not an offensive line scout, but I am curious to know if you've watched any of Travis Hunter and what you think of him, because I can tell you, I've talked to receiver coaches who love him because they know he's raw, and so they watch him and they watch him run routes, and they feel like they can clean that up, but his ball skills apparently are so elite. Like, his catch radius, his hands, his instincts, his timing is so good that they're willing to take him really high in the draft and say, we can work on the other stuff. We can polish his game because he's been focusing so much of his time on defense. Have you watched much of him? Would you play him offensively and feel good about it?
I think the guy can play on both sides of the ball. I'm a natural DB, so I love him at corner, because I think when you're raw and you come in the NFL, I think corner's a position that naturally you can pick up easier things to go do, cover a guy, do those things. Receiver is all about, do you see it the way the quarterback sees it? Coverages are going to be changing on the snap, post snap. Like, it's so much more happening that sometimes it just takes longer. But I mean, if I'm him, I want to play receiver anyway. Like, Jamar Chase just signed for $40 million. Like, it's a world of difference. That's why I would want to play. But I could see it. The hard thing for me evaluating him is, like, last year when I evaluated corners, I turned on every corner to see what they look like against Malik Neighbors. When you watch Travis Hunter, like, who do you turn on to be like, I want to see this matchup on either side of the ball? Like, that's one thing that I dislike, but he can't control that. So as a scout, and when you're watching him, you have to picture what can be done. My fear for him in New England in the receiver room is what you just said. He's raw. He needs the coach, and he needs the mentorship of, do they have that? Like, I think Mac Hollins was a great addition, because I think Mac is going to be the guy that, like, for those young receivers coming in, Mac Hollins, if you had to rate him for top receivers in the NFL, he would be, 80? I don't know. Like, no one's picking Mac Hollins high. And I think those guys will come in and they'll say, damn, he works this hard and like he's not considered one of the top receivers. Like, I can't imagine what those other guys. So like, I think he's going to bring that mix, and he's a hard worker. He's hard-nosed. But the thing is, sometimes you need some bigger names, some more accomplished guys for guys to really dig in. But I think on the flip side of that, Travis Hunter seems to be like the kid you want in your locker as you're building for the future. Everything about him seems like a brilliant kid, smart in the classroom, makes the right decisions, all about ball. So I think when we started this conversation, we talked about culture fits. I think there's a side of that of, hey, he's raw, there's a lot of potential and upside, and he fits what we're trying to do character-wise, that if he is available, to me, that makes a lot of sense, because they need that character-building, good player. They need those type of guys more than anything in that locker room, because I would say it's kind of been a while since they've been able to draft a guy high that's played great football and turns into the captain, the leader of the future. Like, they need to start finding those guys.
It's funny because the more you think about it, and again, I am pitching that I need to have the left tackle position fixed for my own peace of mind.
But can you get Tom? Can you get somebody that's close to Will Campbell in the third round?
There's a kid named from Ohio State, the kid Josh Simmons. Phil, is it Josh Simmons from Ohio State?
Yep, coming off an injury. Yep, he might be sort of a fringe first round guy.
Would have been likely the best prospect, perhaps, if his season continued. But I think it was a patella tendon. So, I mean, yeah, you can do that.
How about this, Tom? How about this? Let me throw this at you really quickly before we move on. Do you like the idea of taking Hunter at 4, then trading back into the first round and getting your tackle, moving up from 38, take your tackle there?
Yeah.
All right, now you're covered.
So I was going to segue to this, because what interesting thing that it opens up, Travis Hunter, is you draft him as a wide receiver because of the tremendous point you made that you got two corners. One's making 20. The other one's one of the best in the league. You're not going to play him at corner all the time. You're not going to play him at slot. You just use him on offense, spell him on defense. But in 3 years, when Carlton Davis's contract expires, he's still on his rookie contract. Gonzalez is getting his second one. You can expand his defensive role. You can add more wide receivers. There's a lot you can do, basically. I just fleshed out a lot of moving parts, but there's a lot you can do with a player who's that good on both sides of the ball. I do need personally the left tackle position fixed, however. Imagine Jakobi Meyers in the room along with Travis Hunter. Now I'm just spitballing.
I was
carelessly.
I was outspoken on. I thought that Jakobi Meyers going to Vegas was ridiculous. Like, he should still be a Patriot. And kudos to him, because he's just gotten better since he's left. Like, you look at his years and what he's been able to do. He's a guy that fits everything that they want to do, right? He's an undrafted player, works his butt off. I wonder if he's a little bit more vocal now since being in Vegas. I think sometimes new change and new environment brings more out of you. But I thought my last year there, I thought he was the next wave of like leadership and what you kind of want to build around. It didn't work out, but to me, I could see him being a part of that and fitting in well. The thing is, he left and went to Vegas. Vegas is a fun city. Maybe he enjoys Vegas. I don't know. Does he want to be back? And I think that's a part of it too. Like, everyone was like, they should have traded a 6 or whatever for Cooper Kupp. Like, there's a part of this too, that if Cooper Kupp didn't want to go to New England, he wants to stay on the West Coast. I think the Rams and the relationship Cooper Kupp built, I think they were willing to be like, hey, cool, we're not going to send you somewhere you don't want to go for the draft pick. Like, you've done enough for this organization that we're not going to do that. And I think that was a part of it. So, not saying Jakobi has that in Vegas, but, to me, it's always interesting of, like, you try to trade for players. Like, supposedly they tried to trade for Ayuk last year. Ayuk didn't want to go. Like, there's a part of that. And I remember talking to Talib when I think Denver was going to trade him. And he was like, well, whoever they trade me to, if I don't want to go, I'm going to just retire. And it was just like, okay, like, that team, like, you got to get nervous when you hear things like that. And players, I think, have a little bit more control in these situations than people think.
I'd love to see. I mean, I want to move on to something that happened with decisions made similar to Jakobi's, but on a grander scale. But, He's got a $10 million on the final year of his deal. He's got experience with Josh. Phil broached it first, and I have embraced it fully. You send Joe Milton for Jakobi Meyers. Zing, zang, bing, bang, bam, bomb, done.
What is the value for Joe Milton right now? Right, he got drafted as a 5th.
6th.
Well,
he got drafted as a 6th. You could probably. I think there would be some trade value based on people I've talked to, Devin, but your reaction is appropriate because one good game against guys that are basically backups playing for a team that didn't want to win at the end of the season, it's not going to suddenly vault, essentially, and it's not going to vault his value to like a 3rd-round pick. That's from people that I've spoken to. Who knows what happens? Crazier things have happened, I guess, but you're talking probably a 5th. You know, I don't know. Somebody gets crazy desperate if there's an injury or something, maybe a 4th. But, like, I think even that's kind of pie in the sky.
Because I'm just so interested of the question marks with Joe Milton, right, has been the process, has all the skill set that you would want in a starting quarterback, but it's been the other things. And I just don't know if he got to show last year that those things don't exist, and he could be. So I always wonder, because I think when somebody's on a team, the trade value is always like, they should trade and get this and that. And then sometimes I'm always like, well, when a trade hasn't happened and there's a lot of trade rumors, maybe no one's actually willing to send what everyone thinks that they should send to get the guy. And I do think there's some value in Joe Milton get a chance to be with Josh and see what it turns into if he's able to play a little bit as a backup, that he doesn't cost you much of anything right now. And let's say he gets in 2 or 3 more games. Now his value might be way different, kind of like Jimmy G ended up being when he went to San Francisco.
Well, it's a good guy. He's really enjoyable. So you're just gonna bolster his market if you keep him here a year under Josh. He's a good kid. He's got ridiculous athleticism. I mean, so if it's a 5th, a 4th, Josh Dobbs, you can go 3 deep. I did want to ask you, since yesterday was the 5-year anniversary of Tom Brady's announcement that he was not returning to the Patriots. What was it like there?
At the beginning of COVID. Day.
Say that again.
Sad day. I get sad when I hear it.
Go ahead. Let it out.
No. The moment of silence we just had was enough. It was enough. I'm in a better place.
That was special and totally organic, authentic, unplanned.
You are in a better place, but the team itself is not. Has it been worse than you anticipated post that decision? Because I really think that decision led to everything. Once he went and won the Super Bowl, and ownership looked at it and said, my God, he went and won the Super Bowl someplace else? We never wanted to see him play someplace else, and he won the Super Bowl? Bill, you know what? We got guardrails all over the place for you. We're collaborating like mother scratchers now. And that really set the stage.
Collaboration hasn't been the best thing so far, huh?
No. But I mean, has it surprised you the direction things have gone post Tom?
Yeah, and I think it's always good getting an outside perspective. I think, obviously I spent 13 years up there. Like and you guys have been up there for a while. Like you have a mentality of like what a championship team looks like, how to build a team. You have all these these thoughts in your mind subconsciously that you don't even think about because of what you've witnessed. You've witnessed something that's unheard of. You guys longer than me when you got to see the first wave of how these teams were built, what they invested in. And Jason Garrett said to me last week when free agency started and we did a podcast, he said, you got to be careful of thinking the way you built a team was a formula of success when you had Brady, because he was the greatest eraser of all time. He erased a lot of issues that you might have had that you never even knew you had because you had him at quarterback. He said, so like when I see them, stocking up and they get all these defensive players, Drake May is going to need help. Drake May is not Tom Brady. Like he's going to need guys to help him. He's going to need an offensive line. He's going to need weapons. He's going to need those things. So I think when we look at 5 years post Tom, I think it's moving out of not just not just losing Tom, but the mentality over 20-something years of how you build things, how things are successful. Like, he's gone and you tell yourself that, but you also believe in like this defense that needs to be great and like you kind of forget that that was built. And it's not to say that no one else did that. Like, we've seen teams built on great defenses, but in New England, like, you always had a guy, and I know they'll say early in his career he wasn't the same quarterback, but he was still a smart quarterback. He still protected the ball. He still understood how to win football games. And that sometimes is not the same as time goes on and you have different people in the place. So I think they're still in the process. And, I do think it'll help a little bit. Vrabel's been in some other places. So he hasn't had Tom Brady, right? They were successful in Tennessee with Ryan Tannehill and learning and understanding what his strengths were and how to build a team off of that. So I think Vrabel has a little bit of a better understanding of that than, what even like Gerard and all the time he's spent in just New England. So you hope that becomes a benefit for them. But I think it's the toughest thing of you've done something for so long and now you think you have a quarterback that can win. So automatically your mind shifts back to, okay, this is how we build a team. But I think they need to look outside a little bit more and pay attention to some other things and how teams have done things to get some newer ideas of how to kind of build a championship roster.
Cincinnati would be a fun way to build if only they had those kinds of receivers to pay. That a nice problem to have what they've got there in terms of surrounding the quarterback.
Yet to be seen. Cincinnati didn't even make the damn playoffs last year, so I'm not a huge fan of what they did. I don't. T. Higgins is great, but like to me, like you have Joe Burrow who's great. Like Yoshi Vosh is a good receiver. Is Yoshi Vosh as good of a receiver in another offense? I don't know. We used to play against was it Irvin or Irwin when he was in that offense, and T. Higgins or Chase was hurt. He did pretty well. Like to me, you have Joe Burrow. If you would have paid T. Higgins and Jamar Chase after like year 2 or 3 to keep it like the Eagles did with Devontae Smith, paid them right away, then you have to pay top money. Like they need those draft picks to play well because you just doubled down on what didn't work last year. I know people will be like, well, they were close. Yeah, I mean, because they do have greatness on offense. Like it is, but I don't know. That to me is a scary move saying, let's run it back with something that didn't work and see if it works this time. But again, maybe those guys have historic seasons again, Joe Burrow and Chase and Hendrickson, if they get him done too. But that's a risky move to me.
It's fascinating the way these teams have to build because if you swing and miss repeatedly in the draft, eventually you're going to pay the price.
Exactly.
We're talking plenty about
Belichick used to
Devin
say,
will be back with us next week. He'll be back with us the week after. He is with us all the way through on a twice-a-week basis. I'm joking.
Did you just get me a new contract with NBC Boston?
Yes.
Is that what you did?
And you get coaching tips and mentorship from Phil and I.
Devin just said Belichick used to say something. I want to hear what it was.
You can't build a team through free agency. It has to be built through the draft. So as good as some of these pickups that we hope that New England had, I think ultimately it still comes down to the guys that they're going to draft in April and then the next April. They have to end up being guys. Like I think the season this year is a little bit different if they get more out of Polk and Baker in the receiver room, and if the different guys like Wallace and those guys up front, and Robinson, if they play, a little bit better. And I think that's the key. If Ramondre holds onto the ball a little bit better, a draft pick, like those guys have to step up. Ramondre, Duggar, Awenu, like those guys have to end up being some of the top players at their position if you're going to have a good football team, because we've seen that. Milton Williams is a New England Patriot now because he became one of the Eagles' better players. Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Devontae Smith, like it goes on. Jalen Hurts, like, yes, Saquon Barkley was a huge part, but Jordan Mailata was a huge part of who you draft. Landon Dickerson, like those guys that you invest in, Jakobi Dean. Yep, Zach Bond was great, but, Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell, those guys we drafted, they're the guys, those are core guys we're going to continue to build around. and we'll keep making different moves in free agency. We get the free agents we like, we'll keep them. And I think Milton Williams, because he's so young, he can turn into one of those cornerstone players for the Patriots. So hopefully he does, and him and Barmore create this like phenomenal, interior duo that everyone loves to see.
Phil, thank you, Phil, because that was actually
awesome. Yeah, I heard him say it. Sometimes when you're on Zoom, somebody you can't hear some people, you can hear other people. Are you just saying you have young ears? Yeah, I mean, listen, the guy has already, we've seen, removed and replaced and placed on his glasses about 7,000 times over the course of this podcast. So one guy is aging at a very rapid rate, Devin, and one guy's got young ears.
Legend, Tom. You're a Boston legend.
That's true. That is true.
I was trying to, just trying to put a cork in this thing, but
you're not a Boston legend for all of this stuff. You're a Boston legend for all of your pickup basketball games. That's what makes you a Boston legend. It's Scalabrine, then you.
You know what,
Wow.
Dev? I'm cutting down my driver. I'm going to go to a 44-inch driver this year. We're going to talk plenty of golf on the next pod Thursday. Devin will be with us to talk golf. All right, everybody. Thanks so much.